Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sat means truth. Logos means the study of science. Sattology means science of truth, the study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science of fake lie imagination or study of fake lie imagination. Today I have a very special guest. He has authored 7 books and on RSS and other organizations. Plus, he's a regular TV analyst on Indian national television. So, without delay, let us welcome Dr. Ratan Sharda.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, Aditya ji. Long time.
Long time. I see you so often. I think he has already spoken. What else to talk now? So, but for the academic
Actually,
purpose,
I have 9 books now, not 7.
9.
7 on our RSS, 2 are on other topics. One is on Guru Nanak, one is on disaster management. So,
So I take my word back. These are 9 books and available on Amazon too by your name.
most of them, yeah, most of
Most of
them.
them. So you can search on Dr. Ratan Sharda and you can get all these books. Now, before we start off, one thing I must say, all these discussions we do on Sattology are purely academic and it is meant for students and is meant for people who are interested in such topics. And so today we have the expertise of Ratanji. So Ratanji, first of all, tell us there is a sequence of Western protests or the mindset of Western ideologies, particularly extreme leftists, because that extreme left is now based in the US universities right now. Now, that ideology, now I was reading a book on the 10th grade standard, and it's like I was shocked to see that to what extent they can go. And the book line, the one paragraph was they're not even shying now. The white supremacy is literally a racist statement. I don't think we should talk against white or black or brown. And being an Indian origin person, I am literally colorblind. So my question to you is, how is the Western ideology, which is like a trying to not hurt anyone, please anyone, is actually giving rise to violent philosophies in other places also, in other countries?
Well, actually, Western philosophy has changed over time. I would say that at one time, USA led academic objectivity. Of course, it had a little influence of church on its ideology because church was the background of most of the universities that came up. But still, it was more democratic. It was more open. It was ready to learn. It had a very, what would I say, vibrant academic environment and also vibrant politics. But over the last few years, we see that it has been overtaken or let us say controlled slowly by the left-oriented people, of which many are also from India. And this has led to a very biased view of the world from the Western Hemisphere, though Western Hemisphere had a different worldview at one time. Now we have same I would say anti-democratic, anti-dharmic views who are now trying to control the various academic narratives, whether it's USA, whether it's Britain, and that leads also to Canada. So we have a very strange environment where on one side they are anarchic, on the other side they're also pulled down and look down upon every other civilization which does not conform to the Western worldview, or I would say earlier the Christian worldview. So you find people being demonized, people being degraded, and people being insulted without understanding the civilizations, without understanding the value systems. So if you see the way it is, you'll find how India's COVID efforts were demeaned, how it were belittled compared to the worst disaster that USA had, how India's democratic freedom, which was being misused by people who wanted to create chaos when the farmer bill came in, how they were saying we are supporting these forces, but when it came to Canada, suddenly the PM runs away, hides himself, then he calls out emergency, he says these people are anti-country and whatnot, and he wants to control it. Now that is spreading to US also. So when you try to create anarchy, you don't realize it's a weapon which can also be used against you. So this problem of trying to have a very supremacist view of people. If you look at the academic books, there have been very wrong representation of Hindus in American books, but even in India, because they are people of the same red shade, they've also tried to misrepresent Indian history. So whether it's history of Sikhs, or whether it's history of Hindus, or history of the entire subcontinent, which is now in different countries, was one time entire subcontinent was India, that was also broken up. So if you see the study of history of our part of the globe also, it has also been covered by colored by a leftist worldview, where the atrocities of invaders have been minimized, and the achievements of the natives have been minimized again, and they have tried to believe that we have nothing to offer, though we had everything to offer to the world, and slowly the evidence is coming out. So this way of looking at the world and trying to create anarchy as per the new left philosophy of which I said earlier also, of increasing the stressing the fault lines, which results in dividing society. Whether it's issue of marriage, whether it's issue of family, whether it's issue of society, they don't want discipline. They don't want orderly government. They don't want discipline. They want rights, but they don't want any duties. This is not the way nations are built up. If you remember, the most memorable line of any president has been Kennedy's. Don't ask what country can do for you, ask what you can do for the nation. Now, this line, which was the maxim of US, said, does it work anymore? I doubt.
You know, the Western academics, particularly the humanities, have, like you correctly said, that it was initially a church ideology to rule over the natives of USA and also natives of all over the world, that we are superior, we are a superior race. That kind of
And
mindset.
also justify. Basically, the church also offered the justification for slavery. It had justification for oppressing the natives and suppressing the blacks. So this entire idea of imperialism was carried on the shoulders of church.
For the first time in my last book, I introduced, I think you and I both tie on the books now, number 9 books each. And but your books are very famous in India, very, very famous. So in one of the books, I introduced the term critical faith theory. It's not about the race, because the race theory was not there during that time. It was a faith theory, that my faith is better than yours, and that's
Yes.
the whole point, was to civilize the other people. And that's how it started. But today, what we see in the I can see the American campuses now, the mainstreaming of ideologies which ultimately produce hate and might produce violence in the future, because what they're saying is it's creating a very condescending mindset, which is not an open thinker. So they're naturally going to judge other people, and now the institutions created by such people who are headstrong, purely academic, no experience, and purely theoretical, now that is creating a dissatisfaction amongst the other side of the aisle. So there is no neutrality left, academic neutrality left. It's either this side, and believe me, one thing, I feel sometimes, I feel sorry for the right also, which most academics won't like. The reason is the people who are trying to, so in the left and right democracy, the right changes, the left changes, pro democracy, pro government becomes a right automatically by original definition. But that is not existing now. It's fixed positions now on both sides, and they are never going to meet, because they are not supposed to meet. Both are supposed to protect the democracy. So the media role, which you see, because you are in the media and you are one of the panelists in most of the shows, what do you think the media's role is? Because the media is not challenging either of them, especially in the West. I'm not talking about India. India in media is challenging it, but in the West there is no such discourse, open discourse, because in the name of being civilized and being to appear as very educated, like you just see the case of one of the presidential spokesperson. She just laughed at the idea when she's talking to some. Like, it looks like they are part of one side of the media. What do you have to say on that?
In India also, media had played a partisan role for long years. Even up to, I would say, even up to 3, 4 years back, it was highly partisan. Slowly, the other side is picking up. it is ready to rebut, it is ready to respond. But in US, I see from distance, I see that the left ideology has completely monopolized the media. People are cancelled, people are removed from their post, people are not allowed to get published. And even in universities, if you want to tackle a subject, which is the way left doesn't look at, subject is not allowed. I've heard the story when somebody wanted to do a PhD on Kashmiri Hindu exodus and the human rights of Kashmiri Hindus. The person was denied, saying that this is not correct. This is a myth. So if you treat every other truth as a myth, and also reading that conservative academics are so fed up now, they want to start their own institutions, and they feel they have no space because the so-called freedom of expression, which was the biggest achievement of a democracy and democratic institutions for which USA was famous for, there you find that it is not freedom of expression. You cannot say what is the so-called mainstream idea. You cannot speak against that, or you will be cancelled, you will be removed, you will be punished. I have read the stories about professors, even in their academic independence, when they put up a point, because it is woke not to speak those things. For example, gender, the person is simply cancelled. What kind of academic freedom do we have? We had similar situation in JNU. Slowly, it is changing. Our Jawaharlal Nehru Institute, university in Delhi. There are a couple of more such safe houses of left people in India, where they don't allow any other ideas to crop up. The humanities has been dominated by left for a long time, but now they have both the students and also the academics. So when you open a new university like Ashoka, you end up appointing the same people who have created this entire cultural studies story and created the entire hegemony studies theories. So they are controlling those humanities, which has happened in USA also. So unless this is changed, unless this entire narrative is challenged, because there is enough evidence, there is enough information which tells us this is a highly one-sided story, and the entire narrative is changed to the things which are very abstract. If somebody tomorrow says, I am a horse, I am not a man or a woman, he is supposed to be right. Now, I have heard there are people are trying to say that a child of 7 or 8 or 10 years can try to change sex if he or she feels that way, which is highly dangerous. And are we going to have a society where there are individuals, there are no families, there are no societies? If that is the case, and we feel no duty towards either husband or wife or towards children, what we are seeing today, what we saw during COVID and the entire disaster period is that people are left alone. People are depressed. People are heavily depressed. They depend on drugs. Is this society wanted? What happiness we brought to the society with the advent of highly woke, highly left liberal ideas in the world? Tell me. If that is the scenario, then what are we looking for? In the name of West had a problem because Christian theology had a problem with women's status, but in our areas, in the oriental areas or India, there are no such issue. But when you copy Western idea of feminism in India, you end up creating disturbance in the mind of the people, because we never had those kind of situations which were there in the West in terms of women. They had a doubt about whether woman is a has a soul, or whether she deserves the equal status of a man. And because the whole theory started from the theology of Christianity, now when they overcame it, now we see the other side of a huge vengeful way the feminist movement is working. And that movement has led to a situation where we see that we don't want to get married, we don't want to have families, we don't want to have a well-knit society. Everybody is just looking at individual freedom. If everybody wants to have individual freedom, if nobody wants to owe up any obligation to each other, where is the affection? Where is what Bible taught about love? And when you speak of nothing but your own pleasure, how can society survive? These are the questions which West faces. These are the questions which are being thrown upon the Indian society, which never had these issues.
One classical example I'll say is that see, Western academics have very little idea about issues that they comment on. Very little idea. Like one example is the caste, which is they don't have any idea. It's a European word. It has no connection with India. It's an English translation of something
True.
which in Indian languages will mean just a alphabet. Varna means an alphabet. Like you can have ka ka ga ga, or your ABCD or EFGH, whatever you can create. Now they have no idea, but they will still speak about it as if they are the ones who are teaching you. That's an
Right.
attitude they have. And the second aspect is the farmers' protest. Believe me, American farmers are at such a disadvantageous position everywhere. I know I'm dealing with them on a regular basis nowadays for some work, and they will complain that how American government doesn't support American farmers for the prices and other things. Even though it's a free economy, they can set up any price they want based on the market demands. So, but there are no policies for it, and the number of American farmers have reduced consistently. There's 6 to 7 million farmers left out of 330 million people in this country now, but they are going to comment on it. Like for example, Canadian Prime Minister went out of the way to support arson in India, Republic Day parade and other things. But the peaceful protests by the truckers in Canada was considered as a racist, as a very extreme maneuver by him, same person, a kind of a hypocrisy. Now, if you look at the US also, now coming to the US, many of the BLM members now accuse Hindus of casteism without understanding that the caste is a European problem. Now, what they're doing is creating a narrative and telling that we are right, like they are the new gurus of Kali Yuga, you can say, in today's world time. So they are they are producing a statement. Now, how does India view these things, these hypocrisies?
See, talk of farmer bill. I was once on a TV channel where there were some, Khalistani supporters or farmer supporters from US and Canada and UK who were there to support farmer agitation. I'd asked them, what kind of ideas you have of the Indian farmer? You left generations back. And in USA, you have thousands of acres of farmlands, whether USA or whether Canada, where you have to travel by car, travel by tractor from one end to the other, and that they're so huge farms. In India, how many people have farms of more than 5 acre or 10 acre? They're just 15% of farmers. All other farmers are having less than 5 acre holding or 2 acre holding. The farmers in USA or Canada can't even imagine having such subsistence farms where people not just have their own needs fulfilled, also they try to sell surplus grains. Their problems cannot be at all thought about by the Canadians and the US people. And as far as I know, Canada is offering subsidy to farmers, US is offering subsidy to farmers much more than what India is offering. So the problems of Indian farmers is very, very different from the farmers of USA or Canada. And so the kind of markets that USA and Canada have, the kind of subsidy they provide to the farmers, Indians have nothing of that kind. And Indians are offering, what they are offering is basically subsistence level support to the farmers. So to try to interfere in Indian topic without even knowing it, and as you rightly pointed about Varna and caste, which people don't understand, as far as classes are concerned, castes are concerned, or hierarchies are concerned, every society, right from communist society to capitalist society to feudal societies, have different hierarchies. And the hierarchies would have been India also, but they were freely transferable. They were freely exchangeable. A person from a business class could try to become a priestly class. A priestly class person could end up being a trading class. This was possible. It was actually frozen by the time when the census by the British began. When they tried to quantify the caste, they tried to identify the caste and ended up having hundreds and thousands of castes slowly over a period of time. And that is when the social framework got frozen in India, because then they would not allow a person from one particular caste to move into another caste or another profession, or what was Varna was termed as caste. But now caste is basically community. So you can have thousands of communities. You cannot have thousands of or Varnas. So these Varnas are basically based on your nature, nature to whether you want to do business or you want to study or you want to do farming or fight. But these were interchangeable. These were exchangeable. Person could move very freely from one to another, which stopped after British came. So there, of course, have been problems, but they are nothing compared to what the way the capitalist West, when the capitalism arose, the industrial society arose, the way they treated their slaves, the way they treated their workers, nothing of the sort has happened in India. So the framework has to change unless the people in the West, whichever orientation they may be, unless they come to India, they try to really understand. Like many scholars have come to India, many scholars have gone into academics, have studied hard the Indian worldview, the Indian social real social issues of India, and they have changed. You have David Frawley, a very honored person who has come from USA, a great academic. We've got people from France who have been great academics. Once they come there, when they stay there, they understand and talk to people, their story change their worldview. But here we are sitting in USA or sitting in big fences of ivory towers of academics where don't want to understand, or people who does understand only want to use it to break societies, to destroy social harmony. This is the problem. In the West, I would say it's simply question of not being exposed enough to Indian ideas and or Indian society or Indian ethos, Indian traditions, and then kind of pass judgment based on biblical worldview or Marxist worldview. This is where the problem lies.
No, one of the important thing is, like, for example, equating caste with race is an American problem. It's not an Indian problem, any other problem.
Yeah.
And I think the Indian university system and Indian academics, Indian policy, we can reject it, because this is a very stupidest mindset of these people, because they don't
But
understand.
there are brown sepoys, sir, with the help of church, who are trying to create Dalit Afro identity,
That's right.
which has nothing in common. We don't belong to different continents. We don't belong to different societies. We don't have any genetic issues. We don't come from Africa or Canada or natives of USA. We are from the same DNA. We come from the same society. We are in different geographical areas, so different characters have built in because of the whole size of the continent, of our entire Bharatvarsh. So this geography, which results in variation in habits, variation in physical qualities, etc. But ultimately, genetically, we are all same. There is no difference. As I said, people freely move from one to another. There is no stoppage. The tribals whom the left tries to call indigenous, they and city people work together. They lived in forest, people lived in urban areas, and they worked together. They were cooperated right from Ramayana Mahabharata time. In Mahabharata, they fought as equals in the Mahabharata war. They were friendly with the Aram. They were friendly. They worked with very various kingdoms. So this shows that there was no separate exploited entity called tribals or indigenous people. And this is proven by genetics, proven by science. So unless the academics in the West open their eyes to the latest scientific evidence and move out of the so-called Aryan invasion theory, so-called racial issues, racial theories, which depend on the index of the nose. Can you imagine that how the Aryan invasion theory started? That people with pointed long nose, fair color are Aryans, those other are Dravidians. So my family may be Aryan because of my nose I have turned and my color of my skin. Should I become Dravidian? So this is very strange, totally unscientific way, and we responded to this with very very reliable scientific evidences, even right up to 2 years back, including Harvard University study. But we don't want to look at that. We keep on wanting to hammer on the point because that supremacist way of look from the West, looking at other uncultured, so-called uncultured natives who have no knowledge. They will not look at our knowledge. They will smuggle our knowledge. They'll use our knowledge, but they will claim this is wrong. They make us use area. They go back to organic farming, but they will not credit us for this. They are going talking about holistic medicines. They are talking about holistic health, which is the basis of Ayurveda. They talk of meditation, but call it mindful breathing. They call it cardiac breathing rather than calling it pranayam. What is the problem with crediting what India has offered to the world? So this hesitation to accept India's intellectual contribution to the world comes from the mindset that no, they can have nothing, correct? And our brown sepoys, as Rajiv Murata puts it, very gladly take it because they want privileges of academics, privilege of seminars, privileges of five-star seminars and world tours. So they will keep on eating from the same stale plate and follow the same ideas which are floated 200 years back. And it has to stop today or tomorrow. Slowly it will turn back. But till that time, we face this strange situation of trying to somehow demean societies which actually gave so much to the Western world.
No, the Herbert Hope Price is the name of the person who was a British anthropologist who put up the theory of the length of the nose and of the nose. I mentioned in 3 books at least his name. Very famous guy now in my books at least. Now the coming to this, see, you correctly said this is the mindset of these academics. They're taught, and it's like surprising. Islamism has joined this narrative also. They think that they're superior to somebody else like Sanatan Dharma or anywhere else. Now, the point is, Sanatan Dharma never calls themselves superior, because Sanatan Dharma, the people who follow it sincerely, they say it is for the entire humanity. They don't say they are superior to anyone. But this superior mindset is there again backed by the religion. So, see, the point is, the slowly the American academic narrative is losing its value all over the world
Yes,
gradually.
exactly.
And these kind of incidents make American academics look even more, I would say, foolish in many ways, because they're just trying to say something which doesn't exist. There's no scientific evidence to that. And I don't think so there is a reason for Indians to defend also. But at the same time, I'll tell that some of the Indian politicians use the same narrative which is set up and repeat in India. I mean, they appear even more foolish, because first of all they are from India and they repeat the talks of the Western academics. So when is this copy culture going to end?
See, slowly the counter narrative with the right evidence is coming up from India slowly. Unfortunately, the government of India has not yet been able to make it mainstream in the universities. I think in coming 2 3 years that will happen. And coming to this Islamist ideology is trying to enter into the so-called liberal worldview is very strange. Now tell me which dharmic system or civilization apart from India and its surrounding areas ever talked of billions of years of Earth life, which is a civilization which talked about the worldview, which talked about the complete solar system, talked of a moon revolving the Earth and Earth revolving the sun. It was Indian theory, Indian scientific theory. What was Islam saying? It was saying Earth is flat. What was Bible saying? Earth is only 5 to 6 thousand year old. I have no problem somebody having some mythology, because that is the way they saw the world. They had limitation on knowledge, but at least accept that is not right. Which other religion except Hindu Dharma and all the ancient religions and traditions, pre-Islamic, pre-Christian, which is plural? Give me one example which is plural, which accepts that all roads to truth, road to truth can lead to the same truth. That people can have different worldview, but we can respect them. So this idea of one truth being pursued by different scholars from different worldview is something that is unique to India. That is why we have so many ideologies, we have so many sampradayas, so many sects who have prospered in India. Whether even when Islam came to India, Christianity came to India, Buddhism, Buddha, Jain, Sikh, everybody prospered. Nobody was killed, nobody was hanged because they had different worldview. At least once you start accepting, you will realize that this is the way, this is what world wants to be, right? World wants to be plural, world wants to be democratic, world wants to have peace where everybody can treat it as their equal. If that is the way, then what other way is except the Hindu dharmic worldview? There is no other way. If you remember, I gave a lecture some time back where I talked about USA and world needs to come back to Hindu worldview, which is plural, which is respectful to other faiths, which is scientific, and which is ready to change with time if there is any discrepancy found, whether in social structure or problems. So this worldview is what will lead to the world peace. You cannot have peace in the world when a particular faith says that all other gods are false, only my God is true. If you come to my God, only then you will get liberation or salvation. All other will go to hell, and you must convert to actually reach the God or reach, find salvation. These ideologies, whether it's communism or Islamism or Christianism, these cannot solve world problems. Once we realize this, once we start appreciating this plural approach of Hindu civilization, we will find answers coming very quickly, and we can pursue the world peace.
See, with the uh, in the Western world, these academics set the narrative, and there the science is made the guru. Right now, the science is actually against the
But
church.
science is not the guru. That is the fun. That whether you follow church, whether you follow, Makkah, Medina, the science doesn't fit into that worldview.
No,
It's fine as far as they
that's a
agree that
rhetoric.
somebody made a mistake somewhere. It's fine.
No, that's a rhetoric they have. It's a rhetoric. Science is our guru. Will follow the science, but there is nothing scientific in these kind of allegations. It cannot be proved. Even a person like me, a third party, just simple logic, I can defeat this view. Now, one of the other questions comes to the mind is now the old Cold War fault lines are now increasing, are being increased now gradually to create some kind of unrest, so that more farm, like the pandemic was a big disruption for the to the entire world, where the pharmaceutical industry became the richest in due to pandemic, number one.
Yeah.
And it was purely the gift of Chinese and Europeans, to be precise. That's how it spread in the world. Now, how far America was involved, we do not know, but it's going to come out very shortly. People already pointing in that direction. Now, the second part is the same mindset in the Western world goes towards sanctions diplomacy. Because we are superior, we can sanction someone. What if countries like India, what if, so again, what if question, if countries like as India and other countries start putting sanction on the Western countries, because their entire trade, 70 or 80% of the trade is with Asia, because South America cannot afford. Period. It's a simple thing. Africa today cannot afford. Maybe in future, yes, but not, right now they cannot afford. So that if the Asian countries come together and put sanctions, will it change the world affairs? It's again a what if scenario.
See, today, Russia and China are coming together much closer than ever were. It is now very well known. If they come together, where does it leave a beleaguered, declining Western civilization? Whether they will work against, they will put pressure on other civilizations of the Asian continent or African continent is something that is yet speculated. We know that China has a goonish approach to neighbors, to smaller countries, and it tries to dominate them, try to exploit them. We know that. And we know how some countries have gone bankrupt getting loan from China. But this coming together of the people who are still supposed to be developing, still supposed to be have nots in the world control that it is there, you'll have serious problems. And the idea that West leads the East is no more valid, not at all. Whether it's economic prowess, whether it's technology, yes, America had certain advantage, but now there are innovation labs all across the world, whether it's China or India or other small countries. So this will change over next another 5 to 10 years. This will also change. So how long can Western world, especially led by USA, can actually sanction people, can actually dictate terms? I was reading some data, and I noted that uh, post World War, that is in the Cold War period, US was engaged in 64 covert and 6 overt attempts to change the regimes. We know we there are hundreds of cases, but I will just talk a few infamous ones: the case of Chile, the case of Argentina, case of Iran, case of Iraq, and also case of Syria. So the countries which were comparatively modern in the Middle East, which were not hardcore Islamist, they were overturned by USA in search of natural resources. So this approach of trying to exploit the world in the name of democracy has not served it well. Latest to fall for that, after the breakdown, after the when the Cold War was actually was nearly finished, it is said, when Russia lost the other pole, that was Libya. What was Libya's crime? Okay, it was a dictatorship. Which country, which America worked with, how many of them were not dictators? And if you look at the way Indonesia was disturbed by the Americans earlier on, I will talk about Libya because it said we want to go back to gold standards. We don't want US currency as the basis of international exchange. And what happened? A society which was happy, wealthy, well educated has been torn into pieces in the name of Arabic Spring. And what was Arabic Spring? Which country survived it? Even country like Egypt, which was secular to the core, which was modern, Iran, all of them finished. Afghanistan was supposed to be they tried hard to bring in democracy, didn't work because that culture has to be inherent in the system. How many countries has USA been able to turn into good democratic countries? That is a question. That is a very important study people can do. Wherever America claimed to have brought in democracy or removed dictators or put in a government which is more liberal, which government has survived that? Myanmar, Cambodia, Indonesia, which place? I mean, you can name any country, you can name Djibouti, you can name Uganda, you can call any country, Ethiopia, etc. where this effort has been done, whether effort was for that or the effort was to control natural resources. So this race to control natural resources in the name of democracy has made a mockery of what America could have stood for, which is the leading light of democratic world, which it was, which it still is and can be, if it stops behaving like a global policeman where he's lost the agenda. After defeat in Afghanistan in a horrible condition, the way the people are left to suffer, I don't know whether it will be taken seriously in case of Ukraine also. How do you take a nation seriously when it abandons those supporters, like in Afghanistan? So for America, it is time to look back and see whether they can change their behavior towards the world with a sanction, whether it's trying to dominate, where it has lost the actually the will to dominate, where the people have lost the will to fight. That is the reason Afghanistan abandoned. And naturally so, when the soldier there feels no attachment, no reason to be there, to lose life, you see there's a problem. And this is happening for a long time. Vietnam, Korea, what you can count on anything. So this is the issue. That urge to control the world without enough commitment, which was there earlier in terms of it is huge wealth, it's no more as huge wealth. It is no more as prosperous if you really look at it seriously. Okay, GDP all is fine, but what is the condition of American society today? Tone on the in terms of race, tone in terms of its economic prosperity, in terms of the poor and the rich. So many issues because it has abandoned its core principles. Core principles of strong family, strong nation, and justice for all. That is what it has lost over years. This politics of America had degenerated, I would say, in last 8 years. I can't even compare to India. India had a very thriving, huge multi-party system, which is good, which can be bad, but we had a system where we didn't try to control this narrative of universities. Control, of course, it was done by communists, but it didn't try to control the democracy itself. Parties came, parties collapsed, new parties came, and India has been enjoying democracy happily and still survived, still thrived. So this is the lesson I think that we have to see. What was Trump's biggest mistake? He was thrown out. What was the mistake? Did he start any war? He didn't start any war. Did he bomb people out like other presidents? No. But he's supposed to be most divisive. He's supposed to be most dictatorial compared to the people who actually had more bombings to their credit than any other president. So this way of looking at themselves, I think that needs to change a little. But for that, they have to come out of the leftist stranglehold on the academics, and also now the way it is trying to control Democratic Party, in the way it is trying to control the political narrative, which is turning more and more left, where the people who are not in agreement are thrown out of the establishment, whether universities or whether parties. This is something that has to they have to worry about rather than trying to control Russia or trying to control China, because they have lost the stomach to battle. If they had stomach to fight it out, knowing what was the Wuhan virus all about, knowing how badly it was handled, how WHO mishandled it, how China mishandled it, how the globe suffered for years together, and how pharma companies made money. Now, as you rightly said, I know pharmacology friend of mine in USA who said if not today, in next 5 to 10 years, despite all the efforts, the truth will come out. Where will that leave? What face will we have for the world when you know that it is man-made disaster?
One, and again, this is the question on the academic comparison right now, because the Indian academics feel very proud to associate with American academics. American academics are losing their value in their own country. For the first time, I think in next 2 3 years, the majority of the researchers will be non-American origin. They will be foreign descent.
Yes,
And Indian academics, they copy. Plagiarization is very big thing in the Indian academics today, but not in the Indian people. People who are actually going there, getting more aware that the Indian history was taught to them from a colonial perspective, from an invader's perspective. So when do you think that change will happen? Because if the Indian education system challenges the narrative in the American education system or European education system, which are both copy of each other, do you think will that change start happening? I don't see right now happening anything.
I think the major problem in America, I would put in a different way in USA, that the basic urge to earn lost its way somewhere. The basic urge to shine in academics or in industry, and urge to research, and the reward system of working hard has somehow been lost over a period of time. Maybe it is the prosperity itself that does it. Maybe it's policies that do it. So you find immigrants coming and doing the same, because whether Chinese or Indian, they come from the same civilizational thought of trying to achieve the best, trying to outdo what has been done earlier and tried for perfection. Or this urge to succeed is what makes Chinese or Indians succeed even in America. But the urge to succeed and urge to succeed in a positive way somewhere has lost. Maybe it is because of prosperity. Just like Mahabharata happened when Bharat was very prosperous. Something similar may be happening in US. I do not know. As far as academic narrative is concerned, I can tell you very surely, in next 10 years, you see huge changes in Indian academics. You'll see narratives and counter narratives thriving together. You'll see urge to do original research will increase manifold. If this government stays, of course, it will be much more faster. Even if today or tomorrow or in next 5 years there is a change, the spirit has been awakened. The spirit of India, the spirit of Bharat that Arvindo talked about, that Vivekananda ji talked about, that has been awakened now, that cannot be stopped. If that happens, you will find this urge to find the right path, to find what we are. See, for 70 years we have not even tried to do what we are, which is very, there's huge tragedy that every nation knows what's its destiny, what it has to do, where it comes from. In India, we kept on debating it because communists never believed that India is a nation, despite all the historic evidences. So I see that change coming in next 10 years. Then happens naturally. It will be reflected, because at that time India will be one of the very important countries, which is slowly it is becoming now. So next 10 years, you'll find among the top three countries in the world or four countries in the world. When that changes, at that time, I think USA will also change. USA may change next 5 years, but it is a willpower they need. It is an urge to change. If the academics are again pushed into schools, where people are not dumbed down by the woke culture of the schools, where you can pass whatever you say, you can still be taken as correct. There are parodies about how a teacher cannot even call an answer wrong in schools. If that changes, if this wokeism is taken care of, America will definitely rise again. After the same people who have ruled the world in terms of prosperity, in terms of sharing their goods with other people, allowing us to come and enjoy the fruits of their hard work. Naturally, that culture is still there. But this, just like in India, education kind of dumbed down our, made us colonially thinking of, thinking. Same thing is happening in US in a different way. So, as I would say that the germ is same, but being two different societies, the solution to the germs had to be a little different.
One last question before we end this show. The recent controversy is coming out again, the hijab controversy, which is coming out again. It has American roots. Same campaign was launched by Ilhan Omar in this country. Some politicians from Middle Africa now, and some politicians from Middle East, they had launched this campaign in the US, and now it has come to India. Now, this controversy never existed before. It is a sudden creation, and it has become a mainstream controversy right now, where the choice of women to choose is questioned right now. That how can a million people want to put something like a covering on their face and just the eyes are visible? Security concern also. Many countries have banned it, and I'm sure Indian American law enforcement will take appropriate step if there is a need. If there is need, right now there is no need. So again, in import of a foreign controversy into India's ditto, like not a single change over there. What do you have to say on that? Because some of the Indian politicians, they are trying to support a very foolish idea that imagining that. So where is the choice left now? There is no choice here. So what is your point on that?
See, I put up see, first of all, from where does Ilhan Omar come? Which country?
Somalia.
Somalia. What kind of rights did she have in Somalia? Right? What choice she had in Somalia? If she had wonderful choices, she would end up in USA. Secondly, when entire Islamic world women are trying to get away from hijab, getting away from burqa, they have white day, they have so many other days, they protest even at the cost of their lives. If those women are trying to come out of the this typical, I would say, patriarchal way of looking at women, that they must be covered. The men don't take responsibility of their lecherous eyes. They want women to be covered, and by forcing such a thought, they say there's a matter of choice. I'm very sure there's not a matter of choice. Then they quote Quran, they quote Sharia. But this entire idea, when you are living in a modern secular democratic society, we talk of equal rights of men and women. Then how can you try to enforce your idea on the majority of the people? If in the school, in the colleges tomorrow, in the in the military, you say, I want to wear burqa in the military uniform, will it be allowed? And why there should be no equality? And if women have they ever fought for right to go to masjid? They have not done. If no women were allowed to be clerics in the religion, did they object? No. There are women clerics now in India, despite all the opposition of Maulvis. The question is same: when women are treated as secondary citizen, when they're treated as a commodity, you have no right to claim that if they are different. There is a scholarly research, lady Zina Shaukat Ali has come on TV. There is Ms. Soman on the TV, clearly said Quran does not say you have to wear burqa. It's not a matter of religion. It said you have to dress modestly, you have to cover your chest. That is the kind of language that is there in Quran. This is said by a Muslim scholar lady. It is not said by me at all. I have heard it not once but many times. If this is the scenario, then how can you impose a certain Salafist way of worldview on the people? If you have the same rights, do you would you come and demand the same rights in Islamic countries for the minorities? Would allow same kind of propagation of your religion in in Islamic countries? If you are taking a certain worldview because you belong to Islamic worldview, if you are a Muslim who follow Islam, then you will have to compare with other countries which follow Islam, which give secondary status to non-believers, typically kafirs, or people who people who want to behave differently from what the Maulvis locally tell them. Then definitely there is a problem. You cannot have one-eyed view of the world. When you sit in liberal democracies, you want all the rights of your religion, but when you go to country which is controlled the same ideology, you want people to behave in the way the Islamic kings or the rulers want them to behave. You can, and especially in a democratic secular society, when uniforms are supposed to be the way of creating a uniform uniform way of looking at students, so they look equal, they have that sense of unity. It is a world around what is uniform is clearly understood. So to make that excuse to create this kind of environment is not acceptable at all. There is no logical reason to behave this way, because in their society they can wear hijab, in their own puja room they can do it, they can do anywhere they want to. But in an educational institution, how will they bring religion, especially when they claim to have the same rights? Tomorrow, if some girl is a Muslim lady said in a TV debate, if tomorrow I want to go to madrasa in jeans and t-shirts, hugging t-shirts, and refuse to wear a niqab, would you allow that girl to be part of madrasa? So there is, one is your religious instruction place, one is your secular school education. So this is a totally artificial created construct. Who support this do not understand that how from 1973 a completely free society like Iran became a totally people with black burqas all around you are being forced to wear burqa. Even some years back I went to Iran, they only cover their heads, but slowly that burqa is coming to fashion. And we have seen what is happening in Pakistan. I put out a tweet 2 days back that tell me, when did you see sudden emergence of burqas and niqabs, etc., in Indian society? And you will note that it came when in 1980, 90, when petrodollars had shown huge impact on societies, when people believed that whatever, when they exported ideology of Salafism across the world, you suddenly found Muslim society trying to get into 6th century, 7th century mold. Before that, they were as normally dressed, as normally appearing in the society as anybody else. You could have witnessed in Mumbai, Kerala, UP, anywhere. It has changed in 80s, 90s. Now this new assertion has suddenly become, after in India, after Modi has come to power, that they want to fight it out, they want to create anarchy, they want to create confrontation. So they can claim that there is persecution. We know how it happened in other areas also. I will not get into details. So this entire theory is flawed. It has no stand over to stand on. Your religious beliefs cannot be above the constitution. The same people claim that constitution has given us rights. If constitution has given us rights, it has drawn certain limitations also. There are three judgments in the various high courts where they say education institution has a right to impose its uniform on people. Your religious rights cannot interfere with the state rights. And not only that, 150 schools of run by Muslim education society in Kerala have banned niqab just last year, a few months back. Nobody objected. So typical political ploy to create political instability, create polarization. Now there is UP election, then there is Karnataka election. This polarization helps the so-called secular parties, so they will do it, and it will die its own death. But to create a now imagine Malala talking about niqab in the hijab in India. She was nearly killed because she refused to wear hijab because she was trying to study. She runs away to UK. She will never speak about persecution of minorities in Pakistan from where she comes. She will not speak of persecution of women in Afghanistan. She will try to teach what is happening in India, where minorities are thriving numbers in population everywhere, in every count.
This is the mindset, this is the kind of pressure where the majority succumbs to their demands, these kind of things, where religion plays an important role. Because when it comes to religion, everybody has to stay quiet.
This is deliberate assertion of identity to show you are different from the mainstream society
That's right.
and try to dominate the political narrative by creating what we call in a vote bank, in your case, a lobbies. So that is the entire game.
That is the entire game to ultimately, so even the majority of the Muslim women in America won't put hijab. Most of them, especially those coming
Till
from
till
Iran.
Maulvis have enough control. In America, most of the Muslims are from educated society, and maybe few, if not last generation, who came to drive cabs, but then future generation, the new generation is all educated, and they will, and their numbers are low, so Maulvis don't have control over them. That is why those people leaving Islam are much more comfortable in USA than even in India. So because Maulvis cannot control, because new age generations simply won't listen to them. It's same thing happened in UK also. It will happen in US also. That is the reason they will not win niqab. If Maulvis had their say, they would still force it. That much I can tell you.
No, but the Maulvis in the US are the new academics who are supporting more than even the Muslim community. So these are the new Maulvis there. They don't wear hijab, but they want to force others to have hijab, and all the regular Americans also. I think that will really backfire.
And you will find in Indian debates there are Muslim women, there are Muslim men and women who are opposing this hijab issue. If you go to any TV debate, if you can watch, you will find most of them are Indian women who are opposing it. Indian Muslim women who are opposing it.
So thank you so much, Ratanji, and it was a wonderful
Thank
time
you.
with you.
Thank you,
And thank
Sattology.
you all for watching. And do comment on the video. Let us know your feedback. Namaste.
Thank you.